Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to the action-packed Vaughn Manor, where it's another Hall of Adventure. Yes, it's Halls of Adventure once again. Roger here, my friend Roger, has picked up a few things like he always seems to do. He was a little bit more restrained this week, so not so much flowed into the manor this week as usual. But what did arrive in the manor this week? Well, let's check it out. So the first thing I want to show is not a book, actually. These are bookmarks, which I received from Joe Milsom from Australia. Bookmarks. One is in my Moon Knight book that I'm reading. This is the Moon Knight Omnibus Volume 1. And in this Moon Knight Omnibus is this awesome bookmark. You may recognize this handsome fellow right here. Well, here he is on a bookmark. It's my own Roger bookmark, which is really cool. So thanks, Joe, for sending me that. That is pretty awesome. And she also sent me one with Stephen King on it for my Stephen King project, which is going along just slowly. And then she sent me one with these deer, the deer from the Rustic Vaughan Lodge. That's pretty cool. I have my own Rustic Vaughan Lodge deer bookmark. That's pretty cool. I'll keep this up at the Rustic Vaughan Lodge is what I'll do. You know, someday when it's not 110 degrees up there. Okay, anyway, on to the actual books. And since it's a Hall of Adventure, we always start with whatever comic book related stuff comes in the mail or arrives at the manor. And this next thing, my mother sent me. My mother saw this and knew I would like it. So she sent me I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, the graphic novel adaptation. Now a major motion picture. So yeah, this came out a while ago. But my mother saw it and she said, you know what, my dopey kid'll like that. So she sent me this, Richard Matheson's I Am Legend, which seems to follow the story fairly well. I haven't read this yet, but it looks pretty cool, and it looks to follow the story fairly well with some creepy moments in it. Who did this? I will have to look inside since it's not on the cover. Steve Niles did the text, and Elman Brown did the artwork. So this is really cool. I Am Legend. I love I Am Legend. I have the book right here. It's one of my favorite books of all time. So really cool to get this comic book adaptation that I have not read yet. So that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to reading that. This next thing I got is also equally cool. This is the King Conan Chronicles Epic Collection Volume 1. This contains the King Conan stories that were published by Dark Horse Comics. Now, when it comes to King Conan, Dark Horse Comics, they did the best King Conan, particularly the what was it, Thomas Diarello, when he did the art. But yeah, these King Conan stories are really cool. Yeah, look at that scene from the Scarlet Citadel there. One of the best King Conan stories, the Scarlet Citadel. Yeah, some of the artwork in this is just incredible. Really, really cool. Excellent stories. Some of the best King Conan stuff you'll ever find was published by Dark Horse, and now we've got this first volume of it, King Conan Chronicles. Now, I don't know if we're going to get a volume 2 of this. I hope we do. Marvel Comics, who was reprinting these, lost the license to Conan, and I think they're only going to be publishing Conan for another year, maybe not even a whole year from now. So we'll see how much more they're able to print. They've been pumping this stuff out pretty quick because I believe they knew they were not going to be holding on to this license for very long. But this is excellent right here. So that was way cool. So the next thing I'm going to show you, I got a while ago actually, or Roger got a while ago, and I just never showed it for some reason. I think I forgot. And that is a 2-volume set of Kipling in hardcover. Rudyard Kipling, who has fallen out of favor in some circles for his imperialistic ways, but he wrote some excellent fiction. And this is volume 1 of a selection of his stories and poems by John Beechcroft, who edited this volume. And it has a really cool cover on it. Cool illustrations on the back. That's from Kim, I believe. Yeah, Kim is the first book in here. Then we have the Jungle Book. I believe this has all the Jungle Book stories in this volume. Just So stories are in here, and Puck of Puck's Hall. So all of that is in this first volume of Kipling. And who published this back in the day? This is pretty old. Doubleday published this. So got that really cool title page. And this is the second volume of this Kipling set. And I think I saw this Kipling set before even I got it on Monster Blood's channel. Am I crazy, Monster Blood? I think you've got this. But yeah, a lot of people have this. I've seen this set around. And so, you know, it was about time I got it. But in this volume, with another cool title page there, this volume has just a selection of stories, a pretty big selection of stories, with The Man Who Would Be King and all of his other famous stories, and some poems are in here, and Something of Myself. So this is the second volume. So yeah, really cool 2-volume set of Kipling, which is old-timey. When was this even published? I see these everywhere. So it was reprinted 1 million times, and the last time I don't see here. It's a mystery. It's a mystery when this was done. I have no idea. But it's old. So yeah, Kipling. So the next couple things I've got are actually books by booktubers. And the first is from Regena St. Clair, or R. St. Clair from Regena's Haunted Library, and that is Code Red. Code Red. I read her book Women in Trouble for Horror Mayhem this year, and it was a good collection. I liked it. So I had to pick this up as soon as it came out. I got this the day it came out. This is Code Red by R. St. Clair. It's about vampires who are in an asylum, an insane asylum, I think, causing trouble, as vampires like to do. So yeah, Code Red. It's got that really cool, creepy cover on it from R. St. Clair of Regena's Haunted Library. I'll link her channel down below because it's awesome. And another book by a booktuber right here. This is from Jim Wilbourne, who has a booktube channel and a very large book. This is the 7th Cadence by Jim Wilbourne, which is part of a fantasy saga, I believe. I believe it is. And it's large. You know, that's impressive. You know, a lot of booktubers' books are not that big. But this is 689 pages. So Jim doesn't mess around when he's writing fantasy. He wrote an epic fantasy book, the 7th Cadence, which I know nothing about. I just know that Jim Wilbourne wrote it, and so I picked it up. And I will read it eventually. I've got a pile of books by booktubers now to read, and more are coming. So I'll get to it, but definitely check out Jim's channel, which I'll link down below. Jim Wilbourne, the author of The 7th Cadence, an epic fantasy novel, which looks really cool and is substantial. Yeah, that's the real deal right there. So the next thing I got, I've been waiting on. This is from Robert A. Heinlein. This is Starship Troopers. Now, I realized last week, going through my boxes of vintage science fiction, that his 2 most famous books, Stranger in a Strange Land and Starship Troopers, I did not have. So I got Stranger in a Strange Land. Excuse my idiot dog. 5 o'clock in the morning, she's already making noise. And this one, Starship Troopers, I didn't have. So I had to order this one because I wanted this cover. Because The newer editions of Starship Troopers have terrible covers, so this is a good cover. This is cool. The older covers on science fiction tend to be awesome, and the newer covers tend to suck. Not always, but fairly often. So, a couple more things. Now, you might be surprised at this next thing that I even have it, because when this was initially published, I did not give it a sterling review. I gave it a not-so-hot review. This is Eric LaRocca's Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke and Other Misfortunes. Now, this was originally a small press indie publication, but is now being published in hardcover from Titan Books. This is Titan Books, right? Let me just make sure. Yeah, Titan Books. Titan Books is now publishing Eric LaRocca's Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. Now, I've been buying Eric LaRocca's books for a long time in their indie publications. So I felt like even though I wasn't a huge fan of this one, I should get it for two reasons. First of all, it's his first major book publication from a major publisher, Titan Books, and it's got two other stories in here. What other stories are in here? The Enchantment is in here, and you'll find It's Like That All Over. You'll find It's Like That All Over. So those two other stories are in here along with Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. So that's why I got it. For those two reasons. And it's got a new cool cover on it. I'm not quite sure it's as iconic as the original one has become here on BookTube, but it's pretty cool. And it's cool that he's in hardcover now and he's got all the fancy pants blurbs. Stephen Graham Jones and Paul Tremblay and other people are saying how great he is. No obligatory Stephen King blurb though, so I guess he hasn't reached those heights yet. So I got all that stuff, and I have one more thing. I always save my favorite thing for last, and of course my favorite thing is from Clark Ashton Smith. This just came out from Hippocampus Press. This is Zothique, the final cycle, the complete Zothique stories of Clark Ashton Smith from Hippocampus Press. So Zothique, this kind of series of fantasy stories which take place in the distant future in the last continent. Zothique is the last continent there is, and some creepy, weird stuff happens there. And he wrote a series of stories, and at least one play is in here as well. And a lot of his really good stories, like The Dark Eidolon is in here, The Tomb Spawn, lots of cool stuff. The Master of the Crabs. So this is really cool. And Hippocampus Press is apparently doing a series of stories by Clark Ashton Smith and his different story cycles. So, yeah. Zothique, the final cycle, which is really cool. Yeah. Clark Ashton Smith. Clark Ashton Smith is awesome, and I need to talk more about him, which means I got to read him again. I've got several Clark Ashton Smith collections, and so I've got to find a time to actually read them so I can talk to you more about Clark Ashton Smith. I'm due up for a Clark Ashton Smith video or two because he was incredibly talented. He was, of course, one of the big three at Weird Tales along with H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard. He was a correspondent of H.P. Lovecraft. They wrote letters to each other. And he was also a poet. And he wrote a lot of poems. And his poems are well regarded, actually. Even after he stopped writing fiction, he continued, as far as I know, to still write poetry. So here we go. Zothique, the final cycle. It's awesome. From Hippocampus Press. Way cool. So that's all I got. Well, that's all Roger got this week. See, he restrained himself. Restraint. Okay, my friends, I We'll catch you next time.